Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something absolutely vital in healthcare, but maybe not always top of mind: diagnostic reagents.
Exactly. These are basically the essential substances labs use to detect diseases, measure biological markers, all that crucial stuff.
And we've got a great source to guide us today, right?
Yes, we're working from a 2025 global market report from Cognitive Market Research. It gives a really comprehensive picture.
Okay, so for anyone listening who isn't, deep in the weeds on this, can you give us the simple definition again? What are diagnostic reagents?
Sure. Think of them as special ingredients, substances or mixtures. They're used in tests to find, measure, or just examine other things like
Mhm.
viruses, bacteria, proteins, specific genes, you name it.
Got it. The workhorses of the lab.
Absolutely. Critical in hospitals, clinics, everywhere diagnostic testing happens.
So our mission today is to pull out the key insights from this report. We want to understand the market size right now, where it's headed.
And what's driving that growth, yeah. Plus, how it looks different across the globe.
Okay. And the report starts with a pretty big number, doesn't it, for 2025?
It does. The projection for the global diagnostic regions market in 2025 is USD 62.84 billion.
62.84 billion? Wow. But that's just the starting point for the forecast period?
Exactly. The really interesting part is the growth. It's projected to reach, get this, USD 112.91 billion by 2033.
Whoa. Okay, that's nearly double in about 8 years. What kind of growth rate are we talking about?
The report calculates the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, at 7.6% for the period 2025 to 2033.
7.6%. That's definitely solid, consistent growth.
It really is. Indicates a strong ongoing demand.
And just for context, the report uses 2024 as the base year.
Yes. Base year 2024. They look back at historical data from 2021 to 24, estimated for 25, and then projected out to 2033.
Right, standard practice. Okay, so a solid foundation for the forecast. Let's dive into the regions. It's always fascinating how these things play out differently around the world.
Totally agree. And the report gives a good breakdown. North America, for instance, is the current heavyweight.
Holding the largest share.
By a fair margin, yeah.
Yeah.
Over 40% of the global revenue. Their market size in 2025 is estimated at USD 23.25 billion.
Okay, dominant. And their growth rate, is it matching that global 7.6%?
A bit slower, actually, but still very healthy. It's projected at 6.1% CAGR from 2025 to 2033.
Uh-huh. And within North America, the U.S. must be the giant there.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market is projected at USD 18.34 billion in 2025 with a 5.9% CAGR.
Okay. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's looking at about USD 2.79 billion in 2025, growing faster at 6.9% CAGR.
Right.
And Mexico, USD 2.12 billion, also strong growth at 6.6% CAGR.
Interesting. So what's keeping North America at the top? What are the key drivers mentioned?
Well, it's a few things. They have a really robust healthcare infrastructure, right?
Mhm.
Lots of advanced diagnostic tools already in place.
Right.
Plus, unfortunately, high rates of chronic diseases and infectious diseases, which drives testing. Then you add in significant R&D investment in government support, especially pushing towards, personalized medicine. It all adds up.
Makes sense. A mature but still growing market. Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe. How do they stack up?
Europe's the second largest, holding over 30% of the global revenue. Their 2025 market size is estimated at USD 18.22 billion.
18 billion, and their growth outlook.
Pretty close to North America's, actually, a projected CGR of 6.6% between 2025 and 2033.
Okay. And the report breaks down key European countries, too.
It does. We see Germany as a major player at USD 3.61 billion in 2025 with a 6.8% CGR.
Solid.
The UK is projected at USD 3.06 billion, growing quite fast at 7.4% CAGR. Then you've got France at 1.68 billion, 5.8% growth. Italy at 1.57 billion, 6.0% growth.
Any others that stand out?
Russia's a sizable market too, estimated at USD 2.82 billion, though slightly slower growth at 5.6%. Spain's around 1.49 billion with 5.7% growth.
And some smaller but still significant markets.
Yeah, like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they all have specific figures, and CAGRs generally in the 6-7% range. The rest of Europe category adds another 2.5 billion or so.
So a pretty diverse picture across Europe, but generally strong growth. What's fueling demand there? Similar factors to North America?
Somewhat similar, yeah. An aging population is a big one, driving up chronic disease prevalence.
Right.
Government healthcare programs are well established, supporting testing. There's a strong research base, a real focus on precision medicine, and a strong regulatory environment, which ensures quality but maybe, sometimes slows down adoption of the very newest things compared to maybe faster growing regions.
That's an interesting point. Okay, now let's shift to the region everyone's talking about for growth. Asia Pacific.
Ah, yes, APAC currently hold about 23% of the global revenue. That's around USD 15.08 billion projected for 2025.
15 billion, but the growth rate is the real story, right?
Absolutely. The projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033 is a massive 10.3%. That's the highest of any region by a significant margin.
10.3%. Wow, okay. Which countries are driving that kind of expansion?
China is obviously huge, projected at USD 6.33 billion in 2025 with a 9.8% CAGR. Japan's next at 2.08 billion, 8.8% growth. South Korea at 1.81 billion, 9.4% growth.
And India, often a high growth story.
Definitely here too.
Yeah.
India's projected at 1.51 billion, but with a really high CAGR of 12.2%.
12%.
Yeah. Australia, Singapore, Taiwan also showing strong CAGRs, around 9–10%. Southeast Asia as a whole is over 11% CAGR.
So across the board, really dynamic growth. What's the combination of factors making APAC expand so quickly?
It's like a confluence of things. You've got rising healthcare awareness among the population,
Okay.
rapid improvements in healthcare infrastructure, urbanization making healthcare more accessible.
Right.
Unfortunately, rising rates of diseases, both infectious and chronic, plus big government pushes to improve healthcare, more R&D investment locally, and even medical tourism playing a role. It's a region that's rapidly catching up, and in some cases leapfrogging with new tech adoption.
That paints a very clear picture. Okay, moving on. What about South America? Smaller share, but how's the growth?
South America accounts for just over 5% of the global revenue. That's about USD 2.39 billion in 2025. But their growth is strong, projected CAGR of 8.3%.
8.3%, so faster than North America or Europe. Who are the key players there?
Brazil leads the way, projected at USD 1.02 billion in 2025 with an 8.9% CAGR. Argentina is showing really strong growth too, 9.2% CAGR on a smaller base. Colombia, Peru, Chile are also seeing solid growth, generally in the 8–9% range.
And the drivers in South America still dealing with infectious diseases.
Yes, infectious diseases remain a major driver for testing needs there. But you're also seeing government spending more on healthcare, the private sector expanding, partnerships with international companies bringing in technology, and just generally more awareness about, catching diseases early.
Got it. Okay, next up, the Middle East.
Middle East holds around 2% of the global revenue share. Market size in 2025 is projected at USD 2.51 billion with a strong CAGR of 8.9%.
Almost 9% growth. Which countries are prominent?
Saudi Arabia is a key market, around USD 884 million in 2025, growing at 9.2%. The UAE is also significant, over $500 million, growing even faster at 9.4%. Turkey also shows high growth, 9.5%. Qatar, Egypt, also contributing.
And what's fueling that growth in the Middle East? Seems like a lot of investment there generally.
Exactly. Big government programs improving healthcare infrastructure are key. There's a strong push for early diagnosis, dealing with rising chronic diseases like diabetes,
Right.
and just generally investing heavily in modern healthcare tech and facilities.
Okay. And finally, Africa. Smallest market share currently.
Yes, around 1% of global revenue, market size estimated at USD 1.38 billion for 2025. But the growth potential is there, with a projected CAGR of 7.9%.
Still above that global average. Key markets within Africa.
South Africa is the largest by a fair bit, projected at USD 486 million in 2025 with 8.8% growth. Nigeria is next, around 110 million, growing at 8.1%. The rest of Africa collectively makes up the remainder.
And the drivers in Africa. Similar themes again.
Yeah, growing healthcare consciousness is a big one. Major efforts to combat infectious diseases like HIV, TB, malaria, increased funding flowing in from governments and international organizations, more testing labs being set up, collaborations happening, and interestingly, also a rise in non-communicable diseases that need diagnostics too.
It's fascinating seeing that global tapestry. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. The report also segments the market by product type, right? Yeah. What kind of reagents are seeing the most action?
It does. And the standout, the fastest growing segment, is molecular diagnostic reagents.
Molecular, so that's things like PCR tests.
Exactly. PCR, next generation sequencing, NGS, the tools that let us look at DNA and RNA. The growth is driven by the need to diagnose genetic disorders, many cancers, infectious diseases.
Right, very precise diagnostics.
Precisely. And advancements are making these reagents better, more sensitive. Plus, the whole push towards personalized medicine heavily relies on this kind of molecular information.
Makes perfect sense. Any other major product segments showing significant growth?
Immunoassay reagents are another big growth area. Think tests for antibodies, antigens, like COVID tests, but also for diabetes markers, heart disease indicators, hormones.
So a very broad range of applications.
Huge range. Things like CLIA, chemiluminescence, immunoassays are widely used in labs, but also simpler formats like lateral flow tests, the rapid tests many people are familiar with now, and ELISA tests. Improvements in sensitivity and automation are also boosting this segment.
Okay, and the report mentions other categories too.
Yes, things like chromatography regions for separation, clinical chemistry for routine blood tests, flow cytometry for cell analysis, cell culture regions for research, hematology for blood counts, microbiology, a whole range. They're all important parts of the market, just maybe not growing quite as explosively as molecular and immunoassays right now.
Gotcha. So that's the what. What about the who? Who are the main end users buying all these reagents?
The report identifies hospitals and diagnostics laboratories as the largest end user segment.
No surprise there, really.
Not really, no. It's driven by patient volume, the sheer prevalence of diseases needing diagnosis, constant advancements in the tech used in hospital labs,
Uh-huh.
and again, that focus on personalized care and early detection, often starting in the hospital setting. Government programs supporting hospital diagnostics also play a role.
Okay. Is there another major end user segment that's growing fast?
Yes, academic and research institutes are highlighted as a rapidly growing segment.
Ah, the research side.
Exactly. All the cutting-edge research into precision medicine, genomics, proteomics, study of protein that all requires vast amounts of reagents. Plus, you see more collaborations between universities and biotech firms, and generally more funding going into biomedical research, which fuels demand.
So the research pipeline directly feeds the need for these tools. Interesting. Okay, let's zoom out again. What does the report say about the overall market dynamics, the big forces shaping the industry? Drivers first.
Well, a key driver is simply the growing understanding, both among professionals and the public, of how important early disease detection is. That naturally leads to more testing.
Makes sense. More awareness, more demand.
Right. Then there's the sheer availability of so many different types of reagents now, covering almost any diagnostic need you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, technology. Constant improvements, making tests more accurate, faster, sometimes easier to use, that keeps pushing the market forward.
Innovation as a core driver. What about the flip side? Any restraints or challenges holding the market back?
Yes, a couple of key ones. The cost, basically. Developing and manufacturing high-quality reagents, especially the more complex ones, is expensive.
Right, R&D isn't cheap.
Definitely not. And the other major restraint mentioned is a shortage of skilled professionals. You need trained people to run these sophisticated tests, and there aren't always enough, which can limit how quickly new tech gets adopted everywhere.
That's a really practical bottleneck. What about key trends to watch?
The report points to the ongoing development of novel reagents, ones with even better performance, higher sensitivity, more specificity. That's a constant push.
Always improving the tools.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the other big trend is the potential of point-of-care testing, being able to do more tests right there with the patient outside a central lab. That's expected to really drive demand for specific types of reagents suited for those settings.
Fast results closer to the patient.
Okay.
Finally, the competitive landscape. What does it look like? Crowded.
Oh yeah, described as highly competitive. You've got big global players, specialized diagnostic companies, pharma companies with diagnostic arms, even some research institutes spinning out products. It's a real mix.
So how do companies try to stand out in that crowded field?
Key strategies mentioned are obviously new product development. Constant innovation is crucial.
Right.
Also strategic alliances, partnerships, sometimes acquisitions to get new tech or market access,
Yeah.
and geographical expansion, especially into those high-growth regions we talked about, like APAC.
So it's about innovation and smart strategic moves.
Pretty much. Having advanced reagents and staying ahead of the curve is vital. The report even gives a couple of recent examples.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
It mentions Neurologica, which is a Samsung company, showcasing some mobile CT scanning tech back in late 2023, showing that link between imaging and diagnostics.
Mm-hmm.
And Cytina launching specific regions for monitoring cell toxicity in real time back in 2021. Just little snapshots of ongoing activity.
Got it. And it lists some of the big names we'd expect.
It does. Roche Diagnostics, Abbott, Siemens Healthineers, Thermo Fisher Scientific, BD, Danaher, which owns Beckman Coulter and others, Sysmex. Many of the major healthcare and life science companies are key players here. Quest Diagnostics, too, on the lab services side, which uses reagents heavily. Philips, GE, Canon, Fujifilm were also mentioned, likely due to links with imaging systems that use contrast reagents or integrated diagnostics.
Okay, a familiar list of heavy hitters, and the report suggests more detail is available if you buy the full thing.
Right, they note that a more exhaustive list and deeper competitive analysis is in the paid version.
Understood. Okay, this has been a really thorough exploration. To wrap things up, what are the main takeaways you think we should leave our listeners with?
Well, first, it's clear this diagnostic reagents market is already huge, nearly $63 billion in 2025, and it's set for really strong growth, heading towards $113 billion by 2033.
Yeah, that 7.6% global CHAR is impressive.
Definitely. Second, the regional picture is really diverse. North America dominates now, but Asia-Pacific is where the most explosive growth is happening.
Right, that 10.3% CAGR in APAC is something to watch.
Absolutely. Third, product-wise, keep an eye on molecular diagnostics and immunoassays. That's where a lot of the innovation and growth seems concentrated, driven by personalized medicine and the need for better disease detection.
Driven by precision and speed.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And finally, trends like point-of-care testing are likely going to keep reshaping the market, demanding different kinds of reagents and making diagnostics potentially more accessible.
It really underscores how central these reagents are to modern medicine and its future.
Couldn't agree more.
So, a final thought to leave everyone with, given this massive growth trajectory and the intense focus on earlier, more personalized diagnostics, what kind of truly game-changing innovations in reagents might be just over the horizon? And maybe more importantly, how could those breakthroughs change healthcare access and outcomes for people all over the world? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.